Welcome to a yet unnamed podcast because somebody stole the name for this podcast, turned it into a company, and put up a fake webpage.
It even uses similar colors to us.
I literally just discovered this today that we were freaking ripped off.
Yeah.
I'm not saying the name.
No, we
BS.
can't give into that.
Yeah, but like seriously, someone fed our website into some AI generation thing and like ripped us off. You're very quiet right now. Earlier
fishy.
you were screaming
I was mad.
about it.
I know. I'm just like, I believe it's just someone playing a prank.
Okay, so
Yeah.
this thing, whatever it
Yeah.
is yet unnamed, but we've been wanting to do it for a long time.
I think like 3 years plus. To be
3 years
exact.
plus.
We've been talking about podcasts for
I literally never
years.
drink diet soda, but I wanted to look like a podcaster. So
you podcaster. You are Vlad the podcaster.
yeah, it's not even really a podcast. But we've got the mics. It's official.
No, this is officially a podcast.
Yeah. What's going on in your life? You're doing the ring thing, right? The Oura ring?
I am. Yes, this is new. About 2 weeks in.
And you're totally not copying me.
Not at all. Mine is the newer generation, though, so I'd say mine is cooler.
It's true. This is how you find out that you've been working together for like 12 years.
Yeah. I think you've been telling me to get this for like 2 years, though, in all fairness.
That's in all fairness. It
Yeah.
sounds like something that I do.
But I love it. I'd highly recommend it.
Yeah, I
Honestly,
highly recommend it too.
yeah.
If I give you one thing that you can take away today is send us money.
Yes.
And we'll
And
send
then
you
also
an Oura ring.
Yeah.
Oura ring. Or just buy the Oura ring directly.
Yeah. Also, it can often be used to be paid for through flexible spending accounts or HSAs and stuff.
Oh, the Oura ring's covered by the FSA?
Yeah. In a lot of cases, it is.
What cases wouldn't it be?
Actually, I don't think there's any cases.
Why do we benefits
So
people
it's
automatically say in most cases?
Because that's the
We've been burned.
Because there's been so many burning. No, I know the HRA covers it if somebody has a health reimbursement. I know an FSA covers it. I'm very, very sure an HSA does.
Yeah.
The HSA is the one that would have more intricacies, I think.
Yeah, it's really freaking cool. It like tracks your sleep.
Yeah.
Horrible inactivity tracking.
That's
in my
true.
opinion.
We did just learn that yesterday.
Yeah, but it does a lot of really cool biometrics that like Apple Watch just doesn't pick up.
Stress
so.
levels, which is
Like literally
actually insane.
Stress levels for Kate are hilarious.
Yeah, it'll tell me like, you seem stressed right now.
Yeah.
You might want to go for a walk.
Haven't received that notification once. All right, sweet. Well, we should like get into it.
Yeah.
And actually like talk about some benefit stuff.
Yeah, let's do it. I'm excited.
All right. I feel that some men get a bad rap for outsourcing their benefit decisions to their partners at home.
Uh-huh.
I love all this like incredibly complex language that we use in order to basically say that the guys hand things off to their like
To their
girls at home basically
other, yeah.
to try to get them to make decisions, which is like what's fascinating is I got into the industry 2005, and I swear I thought this was going to change as time went on, and now I'm like, this is just still going on. Nothing's changed. And so we have these like populations we disproportionately work with that are male dominated. It tends to be like manufacturing, transportation.
Yeah.
And so what the HR teams there consistently struggle with is they have a really hard time reaching the decision maker at home, the spouses. And the question is like, in many ways, it hasn't gone better for a very, very long time. Generally speaking, it still comes down to like, there's a lack of contact information. There's a lack of accurate addresses to the home. And so typically a lot of companies, what they default to is like sending postcards to the home and kind of praying for the best.
Yep.
You talk to so many more organizations these days than I do. I'm curious what you're seeing out there today. Has something changed, if anything? What are you actually seeing out there? Let's start there.
Yeah. No, nothing has changed.
Okay, done.
Really, I hear this on a weekly basis. I talked to a group this morning, actually, that was talking about, their quote was, I do an in-person meeting, I give them materials, and I pray that they bring them home. And And like, because she knows that the spouse is the one that makes the decisions on the benefits. But then if she can't get that information to the spouse, she knows she's going to have to chase people around.
You know what's like extra scary about that just occurred to me kind of for the first time is I used to do pricing, like literally pricing on the back end of like what benefits should cost. We always knew that the spouse cost more.
Right.
And so the extra scary thing here is like you install some cost containment program, insert the blank, right?
Yeah.
And like we really don't have a great way to promote it to the higher cost person on the benefits plan, which is kind of wild.
Yeah. And then actually there's like one even further than that. The spouse, especially in these cases, are typically the person that's shepherding the family through needing to use benefits throughout the year. So if they're the ones that don't know how to use them, then or what they even have available, chances are if it's on a family plan, like costs might go up because they're misusing care, or they're not going to get the correct thing, or they're not even taking advantage of those cost containment programs. So I think it goes so much further and deeper than just, I need to get this open enrollment information in front of the spouse, which is, I think, kind of scary to think about when you're like, oh, wait, the people that aren't even getting the information are the people that are likely telling the family and my employee what they should do in terms of benefits.
Yeah, so we have this concept at Airbo that we talk a lot about, which is like, I don't even know if it's really the right words for it, but it's like communication infrastructure.
Yeah.
Is that what you still say?
Yeah. Oh, yes. I love the communication. Okay. It's like my favorite.
So it's like this concept of how, like forget all like the like we talk about so much kind of fancy stuff. Like right now, like AI is the hot topic. We're on top of that. I totally take blame for that. But like basic things like, can you email a spouse? Can you text a spouse? Do you have a means by which to send electronic information that is verifiable that it reaches someone? Electronic because it's cheap, electronic because you can do it more consistently. And do you have a database that information is stored, that is updated on some, ongoing basis? And usually like the answer is no.
Yeah.
More often than not.
Yeah.
What do you think, like companies, what are you seeing companies do about it outside of Airbo? And then I'll ask you to describe kind of what we do with it.
Yeah, I think the main thing I see companies do that aren't using Airbo is like they'll send a postcard home with a QR code on it that links to a benefit guide.
Again, like an online benefit guide.
Yeah, like a PDF. So basically it's just a link to a PDF that's hosted on a website. And that's the most common channel. Some will invite them to in-person meetings. It sounds rare that they attend. But really those are probably the two use cases. And then some tell people to bring materials home.
Yeah.
And those are,
It's like, it really hasn't changed.
No. And then again, when you think about this is just during open enrollment, what about the rest of the year? Too.
Right. I mean, I think a lot of companies kind of go through a lot of their communication budget during OE.
Yeah.
So it's extra critical to think this through the end of the year, because you're trying to use what you did during OE for a good chunk of the rest of the year.
Yep.
Maybe you can just talk a little bit about what Airbo does.
Yeah. So I love this because it's actually so basic. What we do is we essentially have an employee come into our virtual benefits fair, which is our open enrollment experience. And one of the interactions that they have to do is simply add their spouse's email address and send an invite to them. And we put it right at the beginning of the experience. And so they're taking action on it. And then the spouse gets an invite to their inbox, and they can go through the exact same experience and learn about their benefits. And then the other thing that it does is it collects the spouse's contact information. So then you can use that for future communications if you'd like.
Yeah, and I know when we built that, we did it so when we're collecting the spouse's contact information, and it's something that companies get tripped up by, because okay, now you have the spouse information, but you actually don't know who they're associated with. Right. Yeah. Right? Because they can sign up for anything, and it's how do you delete them later?
Right. If somebody's terminated, ooh.
So the way we built the feature is to actually associate that spouse with the employee, so that when you are removing folks from the eligibility file, we're also automatically pulling out the spouse. And
Yeah.
this is the kind of thing that like sounds kind of boring, and in a way it's like, okay, that doesn't sound like that fancy.
Yeah.
But like a lot of the stuff that prevents companies from doing this is like things like that. And
Yeah.
because we start, like our first customer ever at Airbo was actually Michelin Tire, right? Like
Yeah.
really back in the day.
Yeah.
And like this was one of the first things that we had to figure out, like because our roots are so much in these like harder to reach populations, we had to think through a lot of this stuff. And I think it's really cool to have done that work and kind of like to see the results of that work now.
Yeah.
Because it's still, I just don't think it should be like, this is frankly not innovative.
No, it's such a basic thing that
It's
we
just basic.
do. Yeah, but
101.
Exactly.
But a lot of companies haven't done it yet.
Yeah, because I think a lot of them don't even know how to put the technology together to like get an employee to ask their spouse for an email. Like it's just like a little. It sounds like such a little thing, but like all that infrastructure and strategy is harder to actually execute on than us just saying it here.
No, that's right.
And that's where Airbo's, I think, really valuable on that.
Yeah, I think this is the part where like it's interesting because on the one hand, to be totally frank, I think it just came out. Like it frustrates me, right? Because it's like every company should be doing this.
Right.
Frankly, like Airbo should not be the only means by which this is done.
Agreed.
It should just be a standard thing.
Yeah.
So any competitors that want to copy us, like just go do it. It's a really good idea. But like it is simply hard because you can't really do that with a microsite. The microsite needs to be connected to some SMS and email infrastructure. That's really unusual.
Yep.
You have to have like the right language in each one of those, which means that if the communication consultant is writing it, it really complicates things. Right. You have to have a process for adding and removing it. So there are these steps that we've automated and made really easy, and it feels kind of magical.
Yeah.
It's not technically hard. You just need to know that it needs to be done and actually like care enough to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's like the seemingly simple thing, but there's actually like a lot of kind of components that go into it.
Yeah.
I think that's why it's so hard for companies to actually implement something like
this
on their own.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's not it's you're not gonna like pull a instance of like Oracle off the shelf and like the help desk and combine it with like the free microsite and like whatever and be able to do this very easily. No. It's just too complicated.
Yeah, no, not at all. And I think the other thing that's like just one thing to add that I think is really important to note is within Airbo, you can actually see the data of like spouses participating too.
Oh yeah.
And so then you're able to see like actually like who is coming in and participating and also who isn't.
Yeah.
And so that's like one step further that I think is really helpful for companies on this front, especially like when you deal with this challenge, when you have like typically a very male dominated population, like this is something really
bad
real.
Rap.
Because I know I'm
Get
sorry.
a bad rap.
But like
I have an Oura ring.
But I will hear people say like, yeah, you know, our HR benefits professionals say like, I spent a half an hour on the phone with the spouse because they didn't understand the benefits and like the employee passed me off and I know the spouse better now. And like, it was a huge chunk of my day because they just like, they're the ones that had to do the thing. And so I think it's also really valuable that they can get the data.
Yeah.
Of like which spouses are coming in too.
Yeah. Okay. Well, what else? What else in the subject? Anything else?
I would say, I mean, that's like kind of the main thing is sending. So I think to like support yourself here, obviously you could use Airbo to allow an employee to invite a spouse. But like, again, a really basic way is a Google form, right? And like have an employee invite their spouse that way and include them on email lists. I do think Airbo is probably the easier way to do it, but you know, there is some ways that I think companies can do that.